There are very few things more dramatic than a catastrophic failure of a massive structure. Often such events are quick and shocking, and on the 1st of October 2019, this kind of drama was experienced in Taiwan, when a crossing over a harbour in Seoul, Yilan County destroyed the relative calm of the fishing town. It would be captured on CCTV, and its collapse would cause the loss of many lives. However, the disaster was bizarre, as the bridge was barely 20 years old, making it pretty young in the grand scheme of structures. So what caused its severely premature, unexpected, self-untogethering and subsequent attempt at becoming a submarine structural failure? Well, settle in. Today we'll be looking into the Nanfang'ao Bridge collapse. My name is John and welcome to Plainly Difficult. This video wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for my YouTube, Patreon and Ko-fi members. Thank you so much for your financial support, and if you'd like to support the channel financially, then you can from just £1 per month. And as always, the links as well as all my merch links will be in the pinned comment below. Background. Today we're looking at a country that doesn't often come up on this channel, that is of Taiwan, officially known as the Republic of China. I know both countries I have citizenship in, i.e. the UK and Republic of Ireland, don't actually recognise Taiwan as a country. But without going down a whole political rabbit hole, well, I know I'll upset someone or everyone, I'll just refer to the relevant place names in the Republic of China. So now I've made that clear as mud, let's look at this, the Nanfang'ao fishing port in Su'ao Township. It's in the northeastern side of the island. The fishing port opened to maritime traffic in 1923, and over the years it would become the largest supplier to Taiwan of mackerel. To get to this point, the port would expand multiple times. This included a road crossing over the entrance to the fishing port from the largest shipping dockside. This allows for road users to travel over the harbour embankment from the mainland section, creating a kind of ring road, past a bit which I found rather humorously called the Monkey Nose. For our story, we go back to the mid-1990s and the plan for a new crossing in the area, which is the subject of our disaster. But it was the replacement to an older crossing. Now, I found it difficult finding much information on the original bridge's history. If you know any more, please let me know in the comments below. The new bridge would be something of a unique addition to the island of Formosa, in that it's the only single steel arched bridge on the island. The way this type of bridge works, at least in our case, is that it is a tied arch, with cables suspended from it, which support the deck below. That's the TLDR, but let's go a bit deeper into this. The bridge's deck, that is the part that the vehicles travel along, is made up of a steel box girder, supported by a split tie-beam structure beneath. It creates a continuous box girder structure, with each end connected to abutments. The arch has a centre section, which at each end splits off to join up with the abutments and split sections of the decking box girder, like this. It creates a visually striking look. To me, it kind of looks a bit like a banana skin being split off. To hold the deck to the arch, there are 13 hangers. They're numbered, very surprisingly, 1 to 13. The hangers were made up of bundles of steel. The first and the last had 17 strands, whereas the intermediate ones had 13 strands. In total, the bridge had a length of 140 metres, or 460 feet, a width of 15 metres, or 49 feet, and a passage height for vessels of 18 metres underneath. Construction began in 1996 and would take 2 years before it welcomed its first member of the public in 1998. The bridge had been commissioned by the Ministry of Transport and Communications and penned by MAA Consultants. The bridge had an expected life of 50 years, but like all things, to live a long life, you need to take care of your health. You know, bridge health, by inspecting it regularly as part of a maintenance schedule. I think I kind of went off my analogy there, but you get the idea. Like I say to my kids, look after your stuff. And that was done at the Nanfang'ao Bridge, right? Well, no. It wouldn't be inspected for 18 years, with the first time it being looked at in 2016. During this inspection, some issues were discovered that the expansion joints were warping, requiring 10 million Taiwanese dollars of repairs. That's nearly £260,000 at the time, so kind of like $300,000. I think I've got that worked out roughly. The works would run between 2017 and 2018, where the joints were cleaned and repaired, and the bridge would never have any issues again. The disaster. It is the morning of the 1st of October 2019, and around the fishing port of Nanfang'ao, it's just like any other day. Traffic is pooling along nicely, and as the small fishing boats gently bob on the water below. Some are even moored up directly beneath the bridge. We can see in this CCTV footage that close to 9:30 in the morning, the calmness would be interrupted. An oil tanker truck is approaching the bridge. It passes along the structure. However, just before it clears the crossing, the structure dramatically fails, plunging the road and the lower portion of the single arch into the water below. The crashing down bridge crushed a number of fishing boats sat below the roadway. This all became submerged. The tanker truck, upon impacting with the boats below, ignited its contents and started to burn them. A section of the bridge had collapsed onto 3 boats, trapping their occupants who were sleeping inside. Emergency calls flooded in, reporting on the disaster, and first responders arrived shortly after. Members of the armed forces were pressed into the search and rescue efforts, in addition to the usual fire, police and ambulance services. The rescue effort would draw in an Air Force helicopter, fishing vessels, and over 60 military personnel, including Navy divers, into the search for survivors. The tanker truck driver amazingly survived the crash. He was pulled from the wreckage from nearby workers at a petrol station, but he didn't escape unharmed. He received serious injuries requiring intensive care and multiple surgeries. Over the rescue mission, 10 people will be sent off for hospital immediately for emergency care as they were gradually recovered through the recovery mission. Mainly these people were from the crushed, moored boats under the bridge. The search was hindered by many parts of the wreckage being pinned below the waterline. After 3 days, the final body was recovered. On the same day, the official death toll was announced, and this was 6, with the total injured numbering 12. Interestingly, the 6 dead were mainly made up of migrant workers from Indonesia and the Philippines. The wreckage would be cleared away pretty quickly, with the arch being recovered and sent off for scrap on the 10th of October 2019. A new bridge will be built on the site starting in 2020, welcoming its new first passengers in December 2022. But how did a pretty new bridge fail so suddenly without warning? Well, the Ministry of Transport and Communications would seek to find this out with an official inquiry. The investigation. The Taiwan Safety Board began its investigation pretty much immediately after the collapse, taking photographs of the failed structure, diving into its design and history, as well as interviewing witnesses of the failure. The failure's beginnings were fairly easy to see, as the CCTV showed the hanger snapping, allowing the deck to plunge into the water. In addition to this, post-disaster inspections saw frayed cables in some of the hangars. So the way that the hangars were attached to the central section of the road deck, they were encased in a steel box. This had to be protected from water ingress, as to not fall foul of corrosion. This was provided by waterproof seam seals. It was found that over the years, this seal had become brittle and had failed, allowing water to enter the housing, which, being the area that it was, had a high salt content. Perfect conditions for rust and corrosion. The hanger anchors at positions number 10, 11 and 12 and 13 had corroded to a point where they had virtually no strength left. All it needed was for a heavy object to overload the last few cable strands hanging on. This came along in the form of a tanker truck at 9:30 in the morning on the 1st of October. The failure started at strand 11, followed by the surrounding strands. It was estimated that the amount of residual strength of the remaining cables was between 22 and 27%. The failing seals should have been noticed. Well, that was if the bridge was actually being looked at, which clearly it wasn't. But what was the lack of inspections of the bridge? Well, a strange quirk was that the roadway across the bridge for much of its life wasn't considered part of the national highway system. This meant that it would have needed some special maintenance regime, which it didn't have. Thus, the bridge fell through the cracks of bureaucracy. This would result in charges for involuntary manslaughter against 6 individuals. But I can't seem to find out what happened to them beyond 2022. 4 of the indicted were associated with the bridge's construction, and 2 were former officials from the port. So again, if you know anything, please let me know in the comments below. So that's my video on the Nanfang'ao Bridge disaster. Taiwan's first bridge failure not caused by a natural disaster. It's pretty impressive that the bridge actually lasted that long. So it's time for my scale. It's going to be a 3, and this is what I've got for my root cause analysis card. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments below. This is a Plainly Difficult production. All videos on the channel are Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike licensed. Plainly Difficult videos produced by me, John. They're currently nice. Well, actually not very nice actually. It's raining right now, corner of Southern London, UK. And all I have to say is thank you very much for watching, and Mr. Music, play us out please.